This is the most dire warning ever issued by a U.S. president. In 1961, Dwight D. Eisenhower, the revered general turned president, delivered a farewell address that not only echoed through the halls of power, but reverberated across the decades. Now, let's be real. Most presidential farewell addresses are not very memorable. I mean, no one is remembering what Grover Cleveland said in his final speech. But Eisenhower's was different. He spoke of a looming threat more insidious than any foreign adversary: the military-industrial complex. Now, American politics is typically a grimy business of deals and trades and half-truths and empty promises, but occasionally a politician will go beyond circumstance and bear witness to some lasting truth. And in 1961, Eisenhower joined such company when he warned of this military-industrial complex, otherwise known now as Defense Inc. or the U.S. war machine. Now, this was no ordinary speech. Eisenhower wasn't giving us the typical political platitudes. He wasn't sugarcoating the truth or lying to us. He was laying it all bare, breaking the unwritten rules of politics. Never be too honest. Now, why does this matter? Because as Eisenhower warned, the fusion of military and corporate industry power poses a significant threat to democracy itself. He spent his adult life studying, waging, and seeking to avert war. His farewell address, then nationally televised on January 17, 1961, wasn't just a goodbye, it was a warning. Eisenhower said, quote, "In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist," unquote. The fusion of military and corporate industry power is like handing the keys to your entire defense system to corporations whose primary goal is profit. It's as if the generals and CEOs are sitting at the same table making decisions that could send us into endless wars just to keep the money flowing. But what happens when profit takes precedence over human lives? I remember reading this headline: "Politicians' profit is military stock soars since Hamas-Israel conflict," in November 2023. And this is exactly the problem. When politicians who make defense policy are driven by profit from war, there's a warped incentive to maintain a state of endless conflict. It's not about defending the nation anymore. It's about ensuring the next contract, the next weapons system, the next overseas base, the next billion-dollar deal. Wars are outrageously expensive, and so conflict becomes a commodity and peace becomes bad for business, and the cycle continues. Now, I want you to think about how you protect your home. You lock your doors with a deadbolt. You maybe install a Ring camera to monitor who comes and goes. Maybe you even have a gun for protection in case someone breaks in. These measures are all about defense, right? They're meant to protect you and your family from potential threats. And then you decide it's not enough just to protect your home. You decide your neighbors need some protection. So you set up surveillance and armed checkpoints at every house in your neighborhood. You install cameras on every street, put armed guards on every corner, and have drones flying overhead 24/7. It stops being about defense and starts looking a lot like control and intimidation. And what comes next? Then you decide that isn't enough, and you start installing missile defense systems in your neighbors' yards, patrolling their backyards with tanks and requiring everyone to check in with you before they can enter their own homes. Where does it end? Now think about this. The U.S. spends more on its military than the next 10 countries combined last I checked, and we have military bases in places where there's no clear threat to our national security. Did you know that the U.S. military budget for 2023 was over $750 billion? And then there's the cost of individual weapons. Take the Tomahawk missile, for instance. It cost over $1 million each to shoot. And so this Eisenhower speech highlighted the economic, political, and even spiritual reach of this conglomeration. He said, quote, "Every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies in the final sense a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed," unquote. That particular quote was from another speech he gave called "A Chance for Peace." And why does this matter? Because military spending diverts resources from social programs, education, infrastructure. It prioritizes destruction over construction, war over peace. This isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about the soul of the nation. The cost of one modern heavy bomber is equivalent to building a modern brick school in more than 30 cities. We pay for a single fighter jet with 500,000 bushels of wheat. One destroyer could fund new homes for more than 8,000 people. The military-industrial complex doesn't just affect foreign policy, it drains resources that could be used to improve the lives of everyday Americans. Imagine what could be achieved if those resources were redirected. Now, some people would argue against this. We need a large military. America has to be the world's police, because if we don't do it, then someone else will. And I'd always give you something to consider from both sides, so I want to throw that in there. But let's go back, though, because the Cost of War project at Brown University revealed that 20 years post 9/11 wars have cost the U.S. an estimated $8 trillion and have killed more than 900,000 people. Each of those 900,000 lives lost represents a unique story. Fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, friends, loved ones. And to really grasp the scale of this spending, let's use an analogy. 1,000,000 seconds is about 11 and a half days. 1,000,000,000 seconds, almost 32 years. A trillion seconds, that's nearly 32,000 years. Think about it. We casually throw around terms like millions, billions, and trillions, but do we really understand the difference when we talk about spending trillions on the military? We're talking about an amount so vast it's almost incomprehensible. It's the difference between a short vacation and the span of human civilization. Some have considered Eisenhower's farewell address as an afterthought in the final days of his presidency. Others see it as a heartfelt warning from a leader deeply concerned about the future of his country. Newly examined documents reveal that this speech was very meticulously crafted, reflecting Eisenhower's deep engagement and concern over the issues he was raising. And so Eisenhower, I think, was far from detached in his farewell address. He was fully immersed in addressing the critical question: how did we get here? Why have we allowed this military-industrial complex to expand unchecked? It's an intoxicating mix of power and profit. Defense contractors lobby Congress to secure a continuous stream of contracts and funding. And in return, politicians benefit from campaign contributions and the economic promise of jobs in their districts. Eisenhower's warning was clear. Unchecked, the military-industrial complex could erode the very foundations of democracy. He cautioned that this powerful alliance could influence national policy, prioritize profit over peace, and lead to perpetual war. And so let's ask ourselves, are we heeding Eisenhower's warning, or have we allowed the military-industrial complex to grow beyond control? How can we balance national security with democratic oversight? These are the questions we need to address as we navigate the modern landscape of geopolitics. And we're not alone in the military-industrial complex. From Russia and China to smaller nations like Israel and Saudi Arabia, the military-industrial complex is a global phenomenon. Each country's version shapes its policies, impacts its economy, and influences its place on the world stage. And so as you reflect on Eisenhower's words, ask yourself, are we more secure because of this complex, or are we perpetuating a cycle of conflict and fear? How can we ensure our military power does not come at the expense of democratic values? You ever think about how we ended up with this monster called the military-industrial complex? I mean, it's like waking up one day and finding out that the boogeyman is real. I went down this whole rabbit hole, and it really starts with Eisenhower's farewell speech. Now, you think about this 5-star general warning us about the dangers of our own military growth, and you really can't make this stuff up. And so there have been a lot of voices shouting about the bloated, gluttonous military feeding on our fears, like wars with China, potential wars with Russia or Iran. It's almost like they're saying, boo, scary country, and we just keep throwing money at it. Hypersonic missiles, robotic weapons, AI. It's like a sci-fi fan's dream come true, but this is reality, and you have to think at what cost. And think about it. Our defense budget is a never-ending list of overpriced, underperforming weapon systems. And get this, the Pentagon fails audit after audit, like 6 audits I read, and billions of dollars unaccounted for. It's like handing your credit card to a shopaholic and saying, have fun. The arms industry pours millions into political campaigns. Companies like Lockheed Martin and Raytheon are spending big bucks to keep the cash flowing. And so Eisenhower was right to warn us. The unchecked power of the military-industrial complex isn't just draining our wallets. it's eroding our democracy. We need transparency. We need accountability. We need to shift our priorities from profits to people. Our future and the future of generations to come depends on it. So those are just a few of my thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think. More content on the way. So if you haven't subscribed yet, now would be a good time. Also, check out my history courses. They're like master classes and the stuff they didn't teach you in school. You can also subscribe to my newsletter, Highlights of Humanity. Just check the description below. And also my book, The Humanity Archive, Recovering the Soul of Black History from a Whitewashed American Myth. Signing off. I'll see you all next time. Thank you.